My queen! My queen!
Oh, Karin, I don't think Mihaba would want to hear you speak that way around me.
Oh, she's looking at me. What do I say? Goodbye! Ah, shoot, that was the wrong one. No, not you. I'm talking about the Spider Queen.
Rakna-kadaki?
Yes, her. Please, how do you think I can make her notice me?
Well, you could try walking into her web and squirming a little, I guess.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea! Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ladies, it is time to introduce you all to one of my favorite monsters of all time in the entire series, the Spider Queen herself, Rakna-kadaki. My lord, I can barely even express how much I completely adore this monster. Yes, this video is a guide. Most of this is going to be very informational, but do not stop me from expressing myself about her while I deliver this information. I love every part of this creature from the ground up. The base concept is extremely imaginative, already a little bit off the beaten path by choosing an assassin spider, not just a regular spider, an assassin spider as a base creature to work from. They're quite unique as far as the type of spider goes. Extra long appendages and an extra long neck allows them to move in very unusual ways for a spider, allowing them to get much more physical with their prey rather than simply relying on their webs to do most of the work. Now you may be thinking, hey, Nerscylla had an extending pincer like that too, and yes, Nerscylla was very cool, but let me sell you on the glory that is my queen, Rakna-kadaki, right here. She has the extra craziness of the assassin spider mindset, but it's built into her far more than an assassin spider even actually has normally. Some of her appendages are far sharper than an assassin spider, much more like actual genuine weaponry. Then on top of that, her entire abdomen is essentially just a silky big egg sac that she carries around above her back. This is where the new Rachnoids come from, and this is where the Rachnoids will stick to while she is fighting you. She controls the Rachnoids that are attached to her abdomen by using the flammable gas that she produces, as is stated in the hunter's notes. Rakna-kadaki also covers herself in a veil of silk, both as a protective layer and as a sort of combat augmentation. This works in combination with the flammable gas, the gas pushing the Rachnoids off of Rakna, and the silk keeping them attached on a short string, from which position she can either get the Rachnoids to spit out fire where they are, or actually anchor themselves down and move herself to them as if they are tiny grappling hooks. She straight up uses her children as a method of transport. She may not be the flagship of Monster Hunter Rise, but she basically embodies the wire bug of this game. But that's not it. On top of this, she also has a bunch of different little moveset changes that activate depending entirely based on how you fight her. If you hit her legs a bunch, you will break the webs. She'll have a lot faster and deadlier physical attacks with those appendages, but they will take less damage. If you do enough damage to her webbed parts, you will cause her to lose control of the Rachnoids that are attached and her silk as a whole. She loses them and all of the silk, and her abdomen becomes entirely devoid of silk. In this state, her abdomen takes quite a bit more damage, but she now starts to use it as a hammer type appendage against you. That's right, she will genuinely start trying to stomp you into the ground with her abdomen while she is making new babies. Because in this state, she is actually trying to restore her helpful little gaggle of spiders. I bet you never thought that you'd hear someone refer to a group of spiders as a gaggle, but I did in fact just refer to them as a gaggle of spiders. If you do enough damage to her in glowing abdomen mode, you can cause a nice long knockdown. And either after she gets up from that knockdown, or if enough time passes naturally in this mode, she will grow a new fresh layer of silk and Rachnoids to live within the silk on her abdomen. But that's just the obvious one, the one that you'll sort of just find because she takes the most damage on the webbed parts, so you'd probably cause this to happen just as a byproduct of fighting her normally. But a few things you may not have noticed are just how detailed her Rachnoid mechanics are. First of all, you can actually see how many Rachnoids that she has on her abdomen at all times. This isn't just a fun visual flair to her model, this is an actual, accurate, up-to-date count of the Rachnoids and where they are stored on her body. Not only this, but you can hit them individually and separately from Rakna herself. You see, when I hit with this hunting horn on the right spot, I get 1 gray number and 1 orange number. The gray number is Rakna-kadaki. It's not one of her weakest spots in this mode, but the orange number is the Rachnoid itself. These Rachnoids each have their own health pool, can each die, and as they die, you remove Rakna-kadaki's access to some of her moveset. How absolutely amazing is that? The detail in this fight is just mind-blowing to me. As you can see when she uses the Rachnoids in her moveset, different moves have different numbers of Rachnoids and they fill different functions. Sometimes she only throws out 1 baby and then slides over to it. Sometimes she throws out 3, slides over to 1, and the other 2 spit out some other stuff. Sometimes she throws out a whole handful of babies to shoot fire, but as you remove Rachnoids from her big old silky abdomen, her moveset will change. She will have less options and you will make her significantly safer to just generally be around, all the way to the point of her having no Rachnoids left at all, where she has access to absolutely no extra movement or abilities, just her own attacks. If you focus this before you remove the web from her legs, this makes the next stage of the fight really easy, which leads me to the main thing to consider for this fight. Is your goal speed to get to the end, or ease of success? If you just want pure speed, then the second you walk up to her, you aim for the legs. Get rid of as much silk as possible and cause her to reset as fast as possible. That's how you make her take the most damage in the least amount of time. If you want a really uniquely safe and measured experience, then you can instead systematically and methodically remove the Rachnoids 1 by 1 from her abdomen. Then fight a significantly nerfed version of her moveset until she's ready for a baby reload. Realistically, you should probably be somewhere in the middle of this. Aim for the legs so you can do the most damage, but if a Rachnoid is in a vulnerable position, just sitting on the ground, or if you're right next to her abdomen, you might as well hit it. If you can even kill a couple of the Rachnoids in the phase, you can make her moveset just that little bit easier. This right here is the precise reason that I am in love with this monster as a mechanical monster hunter fight. There are so many tiny little details that are all only accessed by hunting differently and very precisely. God, I love her so much. I'm waiting at least a couple of weeks before I set my top 5 monsters completely, but know that 3 monsters in this game are 100% in my top 5 monsters all time. In the spots within that, I'm struggling with significantly. Rakna is definitely one of those monsters, just an absolute top tier creature. You know what really pushes her over the top for me, though? I know this isn't the case with all spiders, but I generally associate spiders with the few species of spider where the babies eat the mother after they hatch. It's just one of those animal facts that sticks with you, you know? It's been in my head for years. Rakna-kadaki, however, is strangely like the exact opposite of that. The complete independent mother. She doesn't just not get eaten by her children, she straight up uses her children to make her stronger. She makes them pull her around, she uses them as weapons, and yet it almost feels like there is a caring relationship here. Like she could survive without them easily, as it's shown by her raw strength when she has no silk on her, but she has instead come up with this incredibly unique fighting style based around using these children, so that she can create these children and take care of them early on in their lives, while also not weakening herself as a creature. I'm a mama's boy, and I gotta say I appreciate the strong female role model that Rakna-kadaki sets. No joke, I take a lot of meaning from the way this monster works. And hell, if that hasn't turned you over to the Spider Queen side, watch her monster intro. Not just in English, because I know a lot of us played through the game in English and heard these monster intros in English, but listen to the haunting beauty of this monster intro in the Monster Hunter language.
기나대 바오라메 샤무레 샤무레로 그라키트 다네라 에타라미 지금라메 미시마기로 그 바다의 막 그네레미 그
I could listen listen to this literally all day long, and there's all of these beautiful implications in the words of how she truly does care for the Rachnoids. Like I said before, yes, she uses them as a weapon, but it isn't necessarily just to improve herself. It's to find a way to make it viable to survive in this dangerous, dangerous world while being able to take care of her children. Alright, you've probably had enough of that from me for now. I've mentioned a bit of the important combat mechanic stuff in there, like her phases and such, but let's now get into some particular attacks that you should be careful of, the ones that will come out and surprise you the most, and how you can deal with these attacks. Starting off with the big kablamo move, the 360-degree fire breath. She starts this move by shooting off an explosion around here in a bit of a sphere shape. Then if she is in a cave, she will silk herself up to the ceiling and then start spraying fire breath in a massive circle around her. If she is above ground and there's no ceiling right above her, she will skip the silking to the top part and just do the explosion and then 360-degree fire beam from the floor. This move is extremely deadly, has multiple stages, and as you may have guessed, it works in a way that is extremely fun to play around, because that first gas explosion is actually to push you away because her fire breath doesn't hit right next to her. The angle of her head and the length of her neck simply doesn't allow that part of the animation. So the trick here is to avoid the initial explosion, then get directly up against her so you can keep attacking her while she does this fire breath follow-up. Next up, and one probably most likely to result in getting people killed on early against her, is this really crazy Mission Impossible laser grade silk beam. It is more or less a cone shape, but realistically it is just 5 individual beams coming up vertically with large spaces between them. The further you are away from Rachna's mouth, the easier this attack is to dodge. So if you see the telegraph warning that she is about to do it, just take a step back, find the safe space, and continue attacking. If you feel comfortable enough to get aggressive with your dodging during this move, this is one of the only attacks in the fight where her head is completely vulnerable from the ground. The main danger of this attack is that it can come when you are already in a bad spot and just make that spot worse, but that is just sort of the case with the web attacks in general. I had this really nasty sequence where honestly I just forgot how to play for a moment and caused this myself. I was just playing bad, but I got hit. I wirefalled out of the hit into a surprising web attack, got hit from that web status into being stunned, from which I was then hit by this web beam, and I escaped within inches of my life. She was powering up the double fire beam, and the little extra big tidbit about this fight that is extremely unique and may never actually come up again in the Monster Hunter series, there's a unique interaction for being hit by fire while having the web status. If you get hit by a physical attack while webbed, you get knocked back normally. Nothing unusual happens. If you get hit by a fire attack while not webbed, you get knocked back normally. Nothing unusual happens. If, however, you get hit by a fire attack while caught in a web, oh, then you get this particularly unique animation, where the web burns up around you, causing you to fall to your knees and then to the floor, unable to move for the entire duration. There are iframes involved in this to protect you from getting comboed quite too hard, but it still keeps you locked down on the floor for a very long time. And she does have a number of attacks aimed at creating this combo, the web and fire, so watch out for this always, just consistently. I mentioned Rakna-kadaki's double fire breath there in that last little section, and here is what I mean when I say that. It's a breath that starts on one side, coming up from beneath, and then sweeping to the other side. After that, she repeats the attack from the other side much faster. This attack has a really long telegraph, and if you watch her head, you can see where the fire will come from, helping you avoid it. Most interestingly about this attack, though, is that it's another one of those few times in the fight where she sticks her head out and is vulnerable to attack from the ground. Given the length of this animation, you can actually really get a ridiculous amount of damage in if you manage to attack her while moving forwards with her as she does this animation. She can also do a sort of fiery gas out of the side attack, which she follows by crab walking in the same direction to sort of mow the lawn if the grass was your hair and the lawnmower was a flamethrower. This one can catch you off guard if you try to outrange it or dive evade it, but go towards her face or abdomen and you should be safe. Be careful of wirefall during this attack especially though, it will just keep hitting you over and over and over again. And then the other most notable attack is more a group of attacks, and it is the various abilities where she throws out Rachnoids to help her move. Generally speaking, watch out for the Rachnoids that specifically have webs attached to them. This is the direction that Rachna herself will be moving. Sure, you can't avoid this, but if the details of this fight just weren't quite enough for you so far, if you manage to hit the connecting web between Rakna-kadaki and her baby on the ground, you will actually sever the link, causing Rakna to have a tiny flinch and stop where she is standing, and leaving the Rachnoid you severed vulnerable to attack for a few seconds before she reconnects and pulls it back in. Past this, she has various claw and leg swipes, all the standard monster movement physical attacks, and then she also has the extra fun moves where she uses her abdomen as a blunt weapon. In baby mode, this also throws a bit of web around the place and is more of a swiping motion, but when you reset her into the alternate phase with the glowing abdomen, she starts using it a lot more aggressively, slamming it straight into the ground in an attempt to get you. While the abdomen is an extremely weak part in this phase, this attack is the thing that you have to watch out for most when attacking it. Aside from this, she has a few weaker versions of these attacks that happen when she is fatigued, and finally, just so you know, in case anyone was wondering, she is in fact a carnivore. As far as more specific kill tips, her biggest elemental weakness is ice, however the place she is weakest to element is also a really bad raw hit zone, meaning for melee weapons, using raw attacks and aiming for the head and the webbed areas will be the most effective damage. As far as turf wars go, I have not seen Rakna-kadaki involved in any turf wars. I have hunted her a good number of times, done the base quest with a few wild monsters showing up of a different selection, and have also tried her multi-monster quest with no positive results, meaning in my time fighting her, yet I have not seen a turf war. Turf wars as a whole in Rise seem pretty rare though, so if you happen to have found one that I haven't seen, please tell us in the comments. I really would love to know. And then one final interesting note is that while all quests for Rakna-kadaki are on the lava caverns, she can actually show up in the sandy plains, which makes sense as you can also find the baby Rachnoids there. Finally, here is her armor set. Visually, it's to die for. I love it. Statistically, it's okay, nothing to really write home about. It's a ranged focus set, as in it has both spread up and reload speed maxed out, but it also has some nice stamina skills as well. As far as her weapons go, she only has 2 melee weapons, Hunting Horn and Charge Blade, and they are all fire element weapons with white sharpness and a decent amount of positive affinity, but very low relative raw attack. She does, however, have one of every ranged weapon, and as I'm not much of a ranged weapon main, I'll leave that to you guys to judge if they're actually good or not, but I know that they look goddamn good. And that just about covers that then. I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been my Spider Queen, Rakna-kadaki, and everything you need to know about how to take her down. Do you have the same inexplicable feelings of love towards this monster as I do? Which of her attacks is your favorite? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.